This is episode 183 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Zach Lemaster. Zach is the founder and CEO of Rent to Retirement. I know you've heard about them because they're the nation's leading turnkey investment company. Zach is also a seasoned real estate investor. I just had you create real estate investing. He has a large portfolio of rental properties across multiple markets, including single family, multi, commercial, and new construction. Zach, welcome to the show.
Jonathan, it's such a pleasure to be here. And I'm excited for the episode. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we're always traveling in the same circles. And it's so funny with the podcast. It's like I get to meet people that I've kind of known about or known for so many years. But yeah, I'm really excited to get you on the show, talk a little turnkey. But let's start with your experience. When you were younger, when was the first time that you remember being even interested in real estate?
I can be long-winded, so I'll try to make this somewhat of a quicker intro. But
we have good time.
All right, fair. You made it available. So
yeah.
No, I think the first time I actually heard about real estate or thought about it as an asset class. I mean, I always wanted to be a smart investor and or at least savvy with my money, right? And I was always frugal growing up. But I think the first thing that really clicked with me with real estate is actually my father-in-law. He's from Vietnam, came over during the war, fled Vietnam, came to Canada. Yeah. My wife's from Canada and, spoke no English, shirt on his back, type of thing.
Yeah.
And tried multiple businesses and kind of failed at them. But he eventually, later in life, was able to own a few apartment complexes with him and a few partners. And I remember going with him to some of these, and they were low income stuff, but he really did well with them. And he kind of walked me through the numbers of them. And he was always kind of like, real estate's the way to go. So that was kind of the first experience. And this was when my wife and I were just dating early on, probably 20 years ago. And then at that point, started to think about it more, read all the Kiyosaki stuff, and then started to kind of dive in on some of my own stuff. But that was the intro point kind of for me.
The great part of real estate, especially as a landlord, there's lots of great parts, but it's always a wild card. You just don't know what a tenant's going to do. And a lot of times, of course, you guys are running a company, so they get a turnkey and then the tenant doesn't work out. They're blaming it on you via property management. And it's like, well, you still chose the tenant. There's just a lot of dynamics that can go on that are really outside of a lot of people's control for real estate. A tenant loses a job. That's not their fault unless they got fired. Maybe they got laid off. These are things you learn as a landlord. You have to kind of be a little bit malleable.
Well, I would just encourage anyone that's thinking about investing in real estate in any capacity to understand that, one, this is investing. Investing has risk, right? The stock market is quite volatile. Even syndications, as I know you've seen, Jonathan, over this past year, there's blood in the streets, right? There's a lot of stuff that there's capital calls. There's some syndicators losing their properties or converting investments to equity, so it's challenging. So just understand, guys, this is investing, right? In any capacity, there's risk associated with anything you do, including doing nothing, right? There's a risk associated with doing nothing with your money. But if you're going to invest in real estate, especially in a scenario where you own an asset, you almost have to expect that there's going to be variance, and you have to approach it like that.
Yeah.
And we do our best to educate people on the front end, but some people expect you're going to get mailbox money every month for 10 years. Well, it's an average. If you own 10 houses, some of those will work well. Some of them will overperform. Some areas appreciate way better than you would have thought, but you don't know that until the future. And some areas underperform, but that's how real estate operates. It's just time heals all deals. I want to remind people that you just got to look at it from a long-term standpoint and just keeps, your nose down. We've certainly, we built a very large portfolio that has allowed my family to live a lifestyle today that would not have otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very passionate about real estate. But man, there's been some dark moments of this sucks, right? And you just have to deal with it and have that tenacity.
I think it's pretty interesting though, because if I think about my journey, we were talking about syndications for a little, I didn't invest in syndications till last year, and now I'm in 3 because it suits where I'm at. But I can see that it could be an entry point for someone to go to Rent to Retirement and say, hey, I got my first one. Then they try it on their own. I'm it's kind of annoying on my own. Then I can see them coming back later when they're more experienced to say hey, well, let me get 3 to 5 more assets. Now I have a better idea how to manage a manager. And I already know that these are set up ready. So I can really see it working for both sets of investors there.
Especially as you look into the tax side, because yeah, we'll have people do exactly that, where it's like, hey, they've gone out and they're actively doing their own deals, which is fantastic. Some of them have even become full-time real estate investors, but it's also like they need to acquire more real estate than they can do on their own
Yeah.
to do things like the cost segregation studies and the accelerated depreciation simply from that aspect. So you can be a great business operator. There's a lot of active investors that earn great money, millions of dollars through flipping and wholesaling, all these things. But they have to, that's an active business. They've got to turn their money. So it's like, where are you placing your active capital? And so we'll see a lot of people that are even, experienced investors that just want to diversify in a market. They need X amount of houses to have X amount of tax benefits.
Yeah.
And then we help them build a strategy. We even have lenders that will do a 5% down loan on, these are specifically on new construction homes, on up to 5 investment property, true investor loans. So they could like get this huge tax benefit with using one of those, low down payment loans or something like that. So yeah, there's different areas for different investors where it possibly can make sense. And we work with the whole gamut. We want to be in the path of progress. That's why we focus a lot in the Southeast. And today we like 80% of what we do is new construction, build to rent. When people think about turnkey, they think about a 1930 house that was rehab, right? And like we focus mainly on upper B and A class new construction homes. Yes, the price point's a little bit higher, maybe 250, 300,000, but it's also in the path of progress, much more predictable experiences, better quality tenants, better growth in rents and home prices over time. So, and that's something we learned as well, just empirically, like just less noise, less headache.
You get builder's warranty if it's brand new build, no foundation. Everything's new, so you're not having, your capex should be basically zero for 10 years, barring any like weird anomaly that happens. Which you should also be at the higher rent for the area too, because it's brand new and doesn't have an old basement or something old. I've found that especially now, as people got scared of the market, buying turnkey or rent ready or new construction, very, very smart. It's also a huge leverage on your insurance costs, which are going to continue to go crazy after this latest storm as well. So you really found a way to kind of package those up. But when you guys started, you weren't doing like all new builds, right? It was kind of everything.
Nah, we did. We had very few, and we were, and the way that our company operates is, so we do have some new construction stuff that we do in house, but we also serve as a marketplace for other builders. And like, for example, we've created relationships with some of the nation's largest builders like D.R. Horton, LGI Homes, where we actually work with their wholesale division, which the individual investor would not have access to, but we get better of a buying opportunity because as a group, we're able to buy more, and then we can pass those incentives off to the individual investor that normally would only be available to the institutional buyer, right? So when people think about turnkey in general, they're like, oh, you're paying at or above market price. Well, maybe sometimes, right? But that's actually not the case with some of these new construction properties where you can get, 5 to 10% equity out of the gates because you're working with a buying group like us, and we have all the pieces in place. But to answer your question, no, we started with, lower price points, lower class neighborhoods, rehab stuff. And some of those worked out really well. Some of them had a lot of issues. And quite frankly, I got tired of dealing with my own properties and also investors that were just like, oh, this isn't performing exactly like how we wanted it to.